All right, welcome to this cold, snowy Friday. Freezing. Episode 17 of the MVP podcast. We have Brad here with Virtual 360. He is a full service provider of photography for real estate. He goes into his background and how his background has helped him kind of excel in photography and the mechanics and the equipment that he uses to set himself apart from the rest of, I would say, the market.
And I got to totally geek out because we talked about all sorts of things photography.
Brightness, shades.
Yeah, and that's my background. So I was really excited.
Yeah, it was a great show. Let's just bring him on. He'll tell you about what he does. We talked about the market a little bit and how that's going to set yourself apart from your competition. Very good talk. Knowledgeable guy. He's been at it for years. Let's meet Brad. So today's guest, like I said in the intro, Brad it is Virtual 360, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's right.
Used him before in one of my listings out in the Heartland area. What I like most about his service, and he's going to talk more about it, is the virtual walkthrough. Never more important than right now what we're going through, and I'm sure you've seen it. You're going to speak on it. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything, I was just try to give our listeners kind of a background of you as a person. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up? How did you get to where you are currently owning your own business? Like, what steps did you take? And it's so open-ended. Just
sure. Okay.
Give us a background.
So we'll start in 2008. I graduated college, which was about the worst time in U.S. history to graduate college. So, and I graduated with an interior architectural degree. So basically floor plans, putting where room layout are, and going from there with how does that relate to the outside world of a house. So if you're on a lake, do you put a bathroom in the back of the house or something like that?
Yeah.
So when I graduated, there was just no jobs, and the jobs that were out there, they wanted 15 years experience or something like that. And obviously coming out of college, you didn't have that. So I went back to working for a cell phone company for a couple of years when I decided where and what I wanted to do. And then at that point I got an offer to do these virtual tours. So that it was Matterport was the only company out there that was offering them. And they build the camera and the software. So the agent came to me and said, I'll front you the camera, which was at that time pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. And then if you'll do the virtual tours for me, I'm not asking for a discount, just front, and then, we'll work out all the arrangements in the future. So that's how I got into it. I saw what these virtual tours can do. I was actually on my way to Colorado to go snowboarding, and I said, I'm in. Don't ask anybody else. I'm definitely interested because it was such a new product to me and such a cool product. So that was probably 2014.
Okay.
And so I got back from Colorado and I showed it to a buddy of mine, and he's like, yeah, this is amazing. We should be doing this. Every house should have this. And then we thought, hey, you don't just need it in the real estate market. There's other markets, whether it's architecture, fire protection, fire damage, water damage, that type of stuff. So
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that is very true.
Yeah. So it really is, there's this reach with it. But as I went forward with it, I really geared myself towards real estate. Mm-hmm. And then with virtual tours, as being a one-stop shop, you have to add on photography as well, and then drone photography, mm-hmm. and then video. And so I started adding all these other avenues on that would help the client out, but also be a one-stop shop so I could do everything for them.
Yeah.
And that's when it really became a business. So at first it was just, I was doing it on the side. I was making some money off of it. It was great. But then you have to start dedicating editing time and video editing.
Yep.
And so that's when it really started becoming a business for me.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And I didn't know your background was architecture. Yeah. But, I mean, that fits so seamlessly. I know you took your little hiatus there to work on cell phones. But,
right.
Like from start to finish, like the background knowledge of a floor plan or a layout. Because I just went through that with the home that we just remodeled. When we were doing the master bedroom, the first floor plan that I drew up had the bathroom towards like would have been the west side of the house, right along the river.
Right.
And I went back in, I was like, something doesn't feel right with that. And I talked to the architect, and he's like, yeah, you're probably going to want a view off your bedroom, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. So we ended up flipping that around. So having that perspective coming in and saying, hey, these are the angles we want in the room because it's highlighting this
I think
certain
that's
benefit. It's huge.
so important, yeah. And it's really easy when you get into a house and you're like, oh yeah, this layout makes sense. But when you first start drawing it on paper, it takes a long time to get to that part that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And so highlighting those features, you know, sometimes you have a walk-in closet that you're like, I don't need a picture of this. It's a walk-in closet. It doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
It's great when you come walk through the house, if you know, and in the virtual tour, of course, we'll catch that. But just as a photo, it doesn't show very well. So we'll probably leave that out of it.
Yeah.
And I think knowing, you know, and it used to be that we could only have 25 photos in the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, we had to really decide what's the most attractive photos and what's going to capture the audience.
Yeah. Because I know with that listing, I think you sent me like 50 to 60 photos.
Okay.
And they were like duplicates of the same room, but either you changed the tone of the room or it was from a different angle or it was higher or lower. And you really get to pick out like the best ones, which is what I liked about your service. It's not just like, hey, these are the photos that you're using. It's like, hey, here's the photos, the best photos that I captured. Let's go through, pick out the best ones. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to pick the best ones for the client.
Right.
And
I think
show
it's
their house off the best they can.
important. I offer it in both ways. Some people don't want to have those decisions because they can't choose which ones they like. So then I just go through and I pick the ones that I feel are best and I send those.
Mm-hmm.
I also offer it where you can go through and pick which ones you like.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want me to edit, you know, because I don't edit all of them because the editing is actually what takes the most amount of time. In a house, I spend about an hour taking photos, and the back end is about 2.5 hours of editing.
Yeah.
And so I don't edit everything, but I'll give you the choice. Okay, these are the 25 or 30 that you want edited.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to give you that choice, especially on the much higher end houses.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes something you want to showcase that I didn't even think was important.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if people realize how important it is to have good photos of a house. Like, it's funny, I go on realtor.com all the time and I'm looking, my husband and I want to buy a place out in Oregon one day.
That's actually where I'm from.
Oh,
Yes.
super cool. But we're looking at Willamette Valley, and the pictures that we see there, they're like god awful, like cell phone photos. And it's like, if you can't showcase a property in the right way, then like I don't feel like you're doing it justice to when you're selling it.
And of course, I'm extremely biased to that, but I agree. And it's not always about just selling that one house. Yes, it's important to sell and make your client happy. But you know, we're in a really hot market right now. Sometimes the pictures don't even go live before you're getting offers, or at least showings. But your next client, this is what I offer to all my clients. I offer good pictures. It doesn't matter if it's $100,000 house or $1 million house. These are the pictures and these are the services that I offer, and that's why you want to use me. I don't use cell phone pictures. I don't use client pictures that they took over the last 5 years where things have changed, the trees have grown.
Yeah. The listing in Heartland, down the street from that, there was a different brokerage that had a house listed.
Okay.
Cell phone pictures. And to compare those two side by side, it was night and day.
Right.
So I'm looking at my client like, look at what you're being marketed as and look at what they are being marketed as.
Yeah. And the price point, you can drive your price point up just because you're using good pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're showing what the house really does have to offer. So you can maybe get more out of that house than you would have.
Right.
With a cell phone picture, or bring in a better clientele that's willing to pay more for it.
Right. And we're talking in this market right now that is so hot. How are you going to set, if you're one of 3 houses to choose from, how are you going to set your house apart? How can you get more eyes? Because that's really what you want. You want the most views and you want positive views.
Right.
So how are you going to set yourself apart from those 2 other homes? And if in this busy kind of tiptoeing, don't want to get too close to people, intermingle, like let people look at your house, walk through your house without having to get in the car. It's cold. They got to brush off their car, like jump on the computer, go through a tour. They just walk through your house and at least they can see if there's an interest there, which is what I like the most about it. And I kind of wanted a piece that I wanted to like not pick apart, but like analyze the machinery that goes into it. Because I saw you working it and I sat back and I was like, I have no idea what he's doing. And then I saw the finished picture. So all I saw was a tripod, and
Right.
then you've got your camera, and then I saw the finished editing.
Okay.
So can you take us how it all works, like mechanically?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
So the Matterport camera that you buy directly from Matterport. Now they have integrated some 360 cameras that you can buy just from Best Buy or from a local retailer that have one lens on the back and one lens on the front, and those are what we call two-dimensional cameras. So you're going to still get a 360 picture, but it's going to be flat. So it's not going to have dimensions of like the cabinets, or that you can look around a corner and actually see the depth of something.
Yeah.
And also they don't offer the measurements that they offer with the Matterport camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I've continued to use the Matterport camera, which is produced by their company that does the software as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it takes multiple pictures as it rotates around, but it's not just taking the pictures, it's actually using a LiDAR to detect depth and radar to detect depth.
Okay.
So this can detect if there's a room behind a wall, or so you actually can, with that echo on the radar, you can check.
Is that where you get the dollhouse feature?
Right.
Okay.
So then when it's finished, it stitches all of these images together, but also stitches the information into the images. So you get this final product that you can show like a dollhouse, where you can rotate the property without the roof on it, and like you're looking into a dollhouse from the top. And then the floor plans are dimensionally accurate up to 3.5%. So if I'm doing a room and taking measurements of the room, it's within 3.5%.
Okay.
We can get more accurate than that, but for most of what we're doing, because we're not using it for finished building, 3.5% is plenty close.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that was the coolest feature, that 3D, the depth that you can get.
That's
I played with
insane.
that before I put on the listing for a good 25, 30 minutes. Because I was in the kitchen and I could walk around the countertop and in between the island
Right.
through the tour. I thought it was super cool.
I can see Marcus being like a little boy and just being like, I'm gonna put my little guy here, and that little guy's gonna.
And me
go
not
there.
being tech savvy, I was like, this is super cool. And like you could pull the roof off it and go to the second story, or you could click first story and it takes the second story off, and then it like zooms you into the room that you want to go to.
Unfortunately, you can't like boom the roof off. You just.
I know.
hold up
That's the
roof
next
off.
feature, is like the
The
fireworks.
explosion.
Right.
go
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
We got to talk to them about adding that feature in.
Yeah.
But along with that, you also do the drone shots,
Right.
which I've driven my son's drone. It's impossible to carry.
I can't drive a drone. I've tried so many times. It doesn't work.
One legal question. Do you need a commercial license to do that?
You do.
Okay.
You do. So you have to. It's called Part 107 with the FAA. That's the test you take. So you have to take a 50-question test at an FAA testing facility, just like you would for a pilot's
I was
license.
gonna
Really?
say, so you're a pilot.
Yes,
That's
yes.
So
awesome.
you can fly a plane.
Right. No. But I can fly a remote plane, and that's what they
pretty
call
cool.
it. So yeah.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. So you get a certificate just like you're a pilot afterwards, and you have to carry that with you as you're flying, and you have to make a plan where you're going to fly at and how high you can fly in that area.
Okay.
So legally, we're allowed to fly up to 400 feet unless they're capped for a different reason. So
Okay.
sometimes we can only go up to 200, and we have to look that up before we fly
Okay.
to know what areas and what heights we can go.
I gotcha.
And then you can't be in range of airports. Like I couldn't be in range of Milwaukee Airport because within a certain distance, because their planes are too low that I'll easily be able to fly up and
Yeah.
either hit them or interfere with their radar.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I didn't know about this until I was working with a buyer. It was in Waukesha County somewhere, and the inspector was going through, and it was the middle of winter, and he's like, "Yeah, the winter, like it's kind of tough to get on the roof. I wish I could do drones, but we need a contractor license now."
Right.
And I was like, "I know a guy. Maybe he can help you." And I thought of you instantly,
Thank
but
you.
I didn't know how, like, if that's somewhere where you even wanted to go. Like, could you help out inspectors, make another stream? I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah. There's
But-
so many avenues that it can be used for.
Yeah.
And it's just marketing. How do you want to
Yeah.
market yourself? Do you have enough time? Winter is slow, so maybe I could do some other things. But in summer, I'm doing 30 properties a week sometimes by myself.
Yeah.
I don't have time to sleep barely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely don't want to add another revenue in summer when
Yeah.
it's so busy right now with the
Right.
market. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just thought about it. I thought that was super cool. And I learned something new, that you need a commercial license to fly a drone.
Yeah. And
Who
it's
would have thought?
yeah, it's to me that's very important that people go and get them, because there are so many ways to be dangerous with it
Mhm.
and to do the wrong thing, because the drone can go up a mile in the sky. So you wouldn't be able to see it there, and you have no clue what's around you.
There's a drone in my neighborhood here, and like we hear it and we like are looking for it in the sky, and it kind of creeps me out because I'm like, what are you looking at in my yard?
Yeah.
Like I don't.
I can tell you the cameras are not good enough to like zoom in and from this little drone.
What are you looking at? Like, why are you looking at me so often?
Right. Yes.
So on top of the dollhouse, the walkthrough,
right,
and the drone, you get all those files. What goes into the editing? What are some things that you look at? What sets you apart from Joe's photography?
Right.
That just comes through.
So as I've grown, I've learned I should outsource my editing because it takes so much time to do per house. And as I'm doing more houses in the summer, I don't have time to edit myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I found a professional editor. That's what he went to school for. He's absolutely incredible, so much better than what I can do myself. And I've been using him now for 3 years. And I send him my files when I go to bed, and he sends them back by the time I wake up, and they're ready to go. So I do take some of that workload off myself,
which is good.
Right. I think it's important to outsource.
Yeah.
Especially when you need a photographer.
Right.
Yeah. So then when he sends them back to me, I go through those images and I make sure everything that I want is taken care of in those images, whether it's adding fire into the fireplace, making sure the windows are crystal clear so you can see through the window from inside the house.
Mm-hmm. A
lot of houses, the selling point is what's around them.
Yeah.
So if you can't see it, that there's a nice yard or that you're sitting on a lake, you've kind of lost that key aspect of the house.
Yeah.
And so one thing, when I take the photos, I actually do 5 exposures at a time. So I go from a really bright exposure to a really dark exposure, and the dark exposure gives me that ability to what's called a window pull, show that window show it as you can see through it.
Okay. And then you can blend the brightness of that high exposure of the internal with the dark exposure of the outside?
Exactly.
Okay.
So now you have...
I was taking a shot in the dark hoping that was it.
Yes, that's right.
I love talking about photo editing because that's what I went to school for too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
you should ask the questions. You are the marketing make things look pretty person.
I'm just a super nerd. I like hearing about it. Like I miss photos, but I don't miss having to take the photos. But I liked the editing part. That was my favorite part too.
Yeah, and editing can be fun. It just takes a long time to do.
It does.
And one photo shoot will take about 2.5 hours for me to edit. And if I'm doing 3 or 4 in a day, you're talking 10 hours of editing.
Yeah.
Then you don't sleep.
And hopefully your clients know that you don't just show up, take pictures, and then email them to them.
Exactly.
Like there's hours that you're not in front of them, that you're still working on their stuff.
There's a lot that goes into the back end of it, for sure.
Yeah, more in the back end than the front end. Showing up to a house and taking photos is, at this point, I've been doing it 7 years. It's automatic. Yeah. You walk in and you know the angles you want to take. You kind of know what works, what height the camera's set at. And I've upgraded my equipment to the point that the equipment is as good as it can get for photos. For architectural photos. So I don't have to worry about that in the house, but it's the going home and making sure everything, did you catch a cat in the picture that you didn't know was sleeping underneath the chair or whatever, and editing that out and make sure you don't show that. Or if there's kids in the house, if you blur out the photos on the fridge of the kids. Because you don't want to show that off on MLS or on somebody's website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could blur out photos.
Oh, yeah.
I've been going through just trying to hey, remove your photos.
Well, that's what we prefer, definitely, because it saves the back end time of doing it. It's much easier. So to move a vacuum in a house takes about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. To edit it out takes about 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the editing time is so much more intense than just
you can't
just
click on vacuum and do delete.
No.
Well, that'd be great.
That's the next technology.
You invent it. Yeah.
I will not be inventing that one. Talking
Mr.
about
Tech Savvy over there.
You should talk to Natasha about that one.
We'll see.
Just pass anything tech over to her.
Okay, deal.
So do you still like taking pictures outside of your house, taking pictures?
Outside of the real estate world?
Yes. Yeah.
So I never really, that was not my background.
Okay.
It was photography. I actually got in it because of the virtual tours. I had to offer a one-stop shop. But I have learned to love taking pictures, especially nature pictures.
Sure.
Spring, spring and fall mostly. Of course, right now we have a beautiful snow out there, so I'll take some pictures with that. But I don't
It's
carry.
debatable.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You may not like it.
So
but-
cold.
It's so cold. I don't leave my house
Yeah.
because of COVID, and I just don't like being cold.
No, but I will admit, I was at the gym and I saw like the snowfall in the trees, and it looked great.
Look pretty.
It looked great, but I was like, I'm not gonna go out there to look at it.
Right.
I'm just gonna look through a window.
Yes, yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, so I do enjoy it, and I love looking at other people's photography, but the amount of time and equipment it takes to capture other types of images.
Right.
So my equipment is set up for wide angle, so I can catch an inside of a
Sure.
house. The lens alone, you're $2,500. Now you need
I
a separate lens.
Don't even want to
$2,500.
think about the cost of other lenses.
That's how
Right.
expensive these cameras are.
Oh,
Or
That's
like
just
the lenses.
That's
It's
just
the
the glass
lenses.
on it,
Yeah.
right?
There's
Whoa.
there's a very wide spectrum of costs for lenses, especially if you're going to get good ones. I mean, you
Right.
can get amateur ones and they don't cost that much money, but if you're going to spend the time and get good pictures with them, it costs money.
Right. So those lenses you see on at sports games, the big long white ones where they have two hands on it, or maybe they have
yeah.
a,
I
a
used to
tripod.
use those.
So do you know how much they
Yeah.
cost? How much is that?
Oh my god, I can't even remember now. Probably like $5,000.
Oh, yeah, now they're way more, 40
Yeah.
grand for one lens of
Yeah.
those if you're doing
Whoa.
a zoom. So the ones that are sitting, if you go to a
They have a
stadium and they're up,
monopod.
up higher and they're looking down, yeah, those are your
It's
$40,000.
basically like a telescope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I'm never going to get into that type of photography because you have to be at a stadium or something
Yeah.
to use
But
it.
if
But
you did, you could stay home. Just use that.
Right,
Zoom
right.
into the house.
yeah.
So, did you? I know that you started in architecture. Did you do any photography like early in schooling? Like, did you do that photo? Because I know in high school, everybody has like a dark room and you can develop your own
Right.
for art class.
Right.
Like, did you get into that, or was
I
it
did.
just like
yeah,
okay?
I did. My freshman year in high school, that was one of the classes I elected because freshman year you only have a small group
Right.
of classes that you can.
Yeah.
So that was one that I did, and I wasn't. I didn't really enjoy it much, and partly the teacher.
Oh no. I don't even know if we can be friends anymore.
Yeah. But partly it was the dark room edit. You didn't have a choice there was no
Yeah.
creativity. You're capturing the image was the creativity, but there was no creativity on the back end of it.
Gotcha.
So you can do black or white or sepia or whatever, but you couldn't like change or manipulate the image. So then my next year I took a Photoshop class and a Illustrator class, and that's when I became in love with photos basically. Is that
Okay.
you can manipulate these and add shadows and change how the lighting looks.
Photoshop and Illustrator are the bomb.
Right.
I love them.
Yes. and it's really its own art form. It's you're not sitting there with a pencil and drawing, but you're absolutely creating a piece of art down to the pixels. So you're zooming in
Yes.
sometimes down to a pixel to change the luminosity of somebody's side of their face or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible and powerful. So don't always believe the images you see.
Right, and it's getting
right?
so good. Like Photoshop is getting so good. And
Yeah.
I think like 2 episodes we were talking about the whole Bernie Sanders glove
Yes,
thing.
yes.
And how they're photoshopping him in, and some have been so funny because it's so seamless.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
put him in a UFC ring, and yes, he's wearing mittens, and you could tell because you know the original photo. But like, it's not as clunky as what it was in the past,
Oh
where
god, no.
all the colors were off, and you could tell that you took this photo because he was outside, and this is inside.
Right.
so
Or
the
he was
shades are off.
outlined just a little bit
Yes,
because they didn't
the
get all the
glow.
pixels.
And I'm
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
here on paint, like, all right, how do I get the tree from behind my head gone? And I'm like using the eraser.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, this is just clunky.
Just send it over to me, Marcus. I will take care of it.
Now I have you,
Yes.
but before I'm sitting in paint trying to edit this thing, and it's just not
Boy.
working.
And learning Photoshop or learning another program takes forever. Learning the shortcuts and yeah, you could learn to do one thing and then but actually be seamless with layers and I don't expect anybody to pick up a program and just know it.
Yeah.
It takes years of learning.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I've been outside of Photoshop for so long now that I'm like, oh, that's right. I need to remember these shortcuts again.
It makes it so. Yeah, I run a system that looks like a mixer.
Yeah.
When I'm doing photo editing, well, when I'm doing it myself and video, I do all of the video editing myself because the files are so large that it
Yes.
takes too much time to send it and receive it back. So I do all my
Oh,
own video
okay.
editing. So I use something like a mixer that has shortcuts built into it because it can save you. It doesn't sound like much, but you're talking 2 seconds to go over and click on something and come back. And as you're editing, like that movement, that takes a long time because you're doing it maybe 1,000 times
Right.
in one video.
Right.
And so
Nice.
having those built-in shortcuts is
Yeah, and
huge.
you're talking about doing houses all summer. Like those little shortcuts are eventually going to add up, where you can add more clients and you can keep going. And,
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just not pull your hair out.
Yeah.
Because, something that could take maybe 20 minutes longer, that 20 minutes of sleep is important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all the more reason to look for a professional photographer, even if you're going for sale by owner. If you want to cut out the agent side, which is like,
We don't
say that.
suggest.
Don't say that as an agent, because that is just terrible.
I was gonna say
But
we
like-
don't suggest that at all.
I would not suggest it ever, but some people like to go and do that, and all more power to them. If you're going for sale by owner or you're working with an agent, hopefully that agent is recommending some professional photography like yourself. If you're going for sale by owner, don't take that as a shortcut.
Call Brad.
It's not your solution. Save yourself the headache. You've got enough house prep to do. You've got enough legal stuff to get yourself up on, to like read up on. Don't do the
Yes.
photography. It's not going to work out well.
You'll make your money back just by using a photographer.
Yeah.
Because you
Absolutely.
can market the house at that, little bit of more money that you needed to get out of it to pay for your photographer
It's
Yeah.
funny because
or pay for your agent.
we were talking with
Yeah.
a home stager the other week, and she was saying basically the same thing. Like, if you're gonna pay a home stager, you're gonna make your money back. If your house looks that professional and that well kept and that like put together, you're gonna make your money back.
I have
Right.
a perfect example of that. 2 years ago, I was doing a house that wasn't staged, and it was on market for 4 months, didn't sell. They wanted to drop the price, and they did not have professional photos at that time. So she said, "Okay, we're just going to do professional photos." I said, "Don't, bring in a stager. I got a stager that can work really well for you. Bring in a stager. At least have a few rooms staged." And she was not for it, not having it. So they made some deal with the agent that was selling it. They finally got a stager in there. She bumped up the price of the house by $14,000, and it
Holy
sold in
cow.
2 days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just because people love the color schemes and colors are emotions, and they play
Yes.
with your
Yeah.
mind, and you can actually see how a house is laid out then, because a lot of people don't have that visual where they can walk in and
Yep.
just say, okay, that's where my bed will go, or that's where the couches will go.
Yeah.
Especially when a room it was an L-shaped living room, which made it harder to do.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is putting the perfect tie on, like, don't skimp on your home sale. Like,
No.
everybody works independently as a team to make this thing go.
right.
And if you just buy in and trust the process of taking the steps to do what you need to do, it's going to be more efficient. There's going to be less of a headache, and you're going to get to your end goal of selling your house, hopefully where you want.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's market factors in
Right.
it, but
Right.
easiest path, this is what it has been. So
Right.
let's not try to recreate the wheel on it, I guess.
Yeah, and if you do it all yourself, you're creating more headaches for yourself.
I was just
It's
gonna say, yeah.
so many
Yeah.
more steps that you have to go through. When you can hire other people to do it, your house most likely will sell for a higher price than if you've done it yourself or
Absolutely.
for sale by owner.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll make your money back, and you'll have a lot less headache.
And you don't know all the legalities of selling a house either. Like, you don't want to skimp on that because that could be lots of trouble down the line.
Right.
Yeah. As you're going in, I know that you work a lot with realtors that you built up relationships with. Do you ever get independent, hey, we'd like you to do some photography? Like, what is the biggest objection, or what's something that you see all the time of, like, I constantly get this objection, and how do you overcome that in order to get people to realize the benefit of professional photography?
So right now, I think a lot more people are seeing that there's professional photographers out there, and a lot more people are using them, which is great, because it's okay. My cell phone pictures don't live up to
Right.
this photography, and
But it's got 3 cameras in it.
right, exactly, and a wide angle. I mean, it does great for when the lighting's perfect. But what
Yeah.
happens when the lighting isn't perfect?
Or
Yeah.
your food photos that you take
Yeah.
at dinner.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And those are, I mean, the cameras are incredible now in the phones, but they don't live up to what a professional
Yeah.
camera can do.
Yeah.
And definitely the blending afterwards of making sure you can see all aspects of that room and changing the tones of it so that there's no shadows or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that it's becoming more prevalent that people are using professional photographers. I think one of the hard things is there are a lot to choose, and knowing who's going to be consistent, knowing who's going to show up when they get to your house, So I'm the only one that works in my company, and I'm the only one that goes out. But what happens, if you hire somebody else and they all of a sudden hire an assistant to go out and do their photos, you're part of a business, I feel, is building a relationship with that person. So I can walk in and say, hi, I know who you are. I ask about your kids or your family, your dog.
Yeah.
When you don't have that and they're sending somebody else to you all the time, that becomes a problem. You're not having consistency. And I think consistency is the main thing that, you build that relationship. You know that person's temperament every time you walk into the house.
Yeah.
So that's one, but also price point obviously is another kickback. And there's two, in every world, there's two types of people. There's people that feel like they offer a great product, and the value for their time and their product is there. And then there's the other type that are a race to the bottom. And I am definitely feel like the race to the bottom is the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
Right.
1% flat fee is not great because you're not getting the services.
Right.
They might not be doing everything for you. Where you charge, 4 or 5 or whatever percentage it is, but you offer all of these services and you're one stop. And if they call you at midnight, you'll answer your phone. Those type of things. Not putting you on the spot.
I was like, he's referencing me, because I know that I've called him at night and I've emailed him at like 11:30, and he responds. He should be sleeping.
Don't email me at 11:30.
The only reason I did it, I was not on your case. I just do my office stuff late at night, and I try to send emails because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to text him because I could wake him up.
Right.
Try not to call. But like I'll throw an email, he'll see you in the morning. But then you respond to it, and I was like, oh, he's still up.
Yeah, I'm between about 1 in the morning and about 6 is when I won't respond. That's usually, but
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
11:50 or 12:55.
Yeah, I'll probably still respond. Yeah.
My husband's a late night worker too. Like he's like, I think better when I at night. In the morning I can't do it. There's not enough coffee in the world for me. All right.
I agree with him. I agree. Yeah. It takes me about 2 hours in the morning to really get.
Yeah.
And I wake up early just so that I have that time.
Oh my gosh. And I wake up and I start working immediately, like at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like a little hamster on the wheel. I'm like running on the wheel.
Does that mean at like 9 o'clock you're done?
At 9 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. And that's when we're kicking in.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I just got the kids to bed. Like, let me pull up the laptop.
Right.
Oh God, no. That's when I'm having a glass of wine and relaxing, kicking my feet up.
So you said it was price point and then value.
Right.
And I know that one of the things I was just talking, I think it was a broker, and I called Wisconsin, and do not get mad at me, Wisconsin, but we're a coupon state. We're like, we're always looking for the deal, or who's going to discount their price, or oh my God, I got this at this store for 50% off. Like, if you go to other states, they're not as crazy about coupons as
Especially
we are.
like Illinois, I would say.
Yeah, they're not. Like,
No.
I've never met another state. Maybe Minnesota. Don't get mad at me, Minnesota.
Iowa would be.
I've not spent enough time in Iowa.
I'm from
I got to
Iowa.
do some retail therapy in Iowa to see how it all goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Wisconsin we'll say something like, I love your jacket. Oh, I got it for $15.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the coupon mentality
yes.
of, like, we're battling with the value of our product and how it's going to benefit you with a market. Not everybody, but a lot of them are like, oh, I got this really great deal. It was 50% off, which
Right.
I feel like why there's a big box retailer out there that I don't think really discounts things, but there's always a sale.
Right.
I'm not going to say the name, but I feel like that has to be a huge... What? I didn't hear it.
It took me a minute to process.
We all got the store? Okay. I figured that was going to be an objection because it's not the cheapest photography.
Right.
It's not. And still, I recommend you to everybody.
Thank you.
It is worth it. It's so worth it, especially now when there's less foot traffic in these listings. It is so worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I wanted you to get on the show, because I want people to experience you and like see the time and the value that goes into the product that you're offering.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel it's, oh, you came in for 45 minutes, but I'm paying $300 or whatever the price tag is on it.
Yeah.
And it's not 45 minutes of time. It's, driving time, which I include up to an hour driving. So sometimes that's an hour there and an hour back, plus 45 minutes, plus 2.5 hours of editing.
Yeah.
So you're like 6 hours of time into this one shoot.
Right.
So there is a lot more time than what you see up front. And then experience and knowledge and equipment, I think all gets bundled into that as well.
Yeah.
You don't just walk in the first day and my pictures from my first house are horrendous. I'm glad she fronted for the camera because I don't think she would have used me again.
Oh no.
Yes. So I've come a long way since then, and we're still she works with me often still, and I'm our only photographer, and
That's awesome.
with her, and she has 6 agents, and I'm the only photographer underneath with the agents as well.
There's a learning curve for everything, though. I mean, if you think about it, for every profession, there's a learning curve.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. But building the relationships and being able to just be real with somebody, and I think that's as important as your quality of your product.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've had mistakes made to me that weren't my fault, but I still have to, it's still my, I still have to cover it. So to give you an example, I shot a whole house video. We did a video walkthrough with the agent where they were talking on camera, got home, uploaded it to my computer, went to bed because I was editing it the next morning, and woke up to find that a tree dropped on our power line and shorted out our whole house basically.
Shut up.
So not only did I lose her footage, but I lost my computer, my anything I didn't have backed up, right? Yeah. So
Oh no.
but it's still on me. I should have. So now I do a backup before I go to bed of everything gets backed up to a second hard drive and then gets unplugged.
Yeah.
So that I never have that chance of losing that product again.
Yeah.
At least there you're not using film anymore, so you can't
Yes.
ruin your film or forget to put your film in the camera and then take the pictures.
Yes. Yeah. Open it up and
and open it up and be like, whoops.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that I really didn't live through is those little cartridges of film from. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Maybe 2 years.
Right.
When I was super young, and then it was just digital.
Really?
Yeah. So I missed all that.
He's making me feel old.
It makes
Even me.
myself feel like a toddler right now. But I remember playing. That's all I did. I played with it. I pulled out the film.
Oh my god.
And then I got yelled at by my mom because I ruined pictures.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
obviously it's supposed.
You didn't know.
I was so young, I had no idea. I just liked holding up to light to see what it would have been if I didn't just destroy this
Right.
film. But yeah, otherwise it was all digital. So, and if it's not backed up, it is gone. Which, we back up to Drive, and then I save it on my computer, and then I try to print it off and put it in a file because.
Right.
And then we've had instances here where we thought we were recording, and then we look and it
yeah.
wasn't there. Whoops.
Yeah.
I've done that before with video when you get through halfway through your house, you're like, I forgot to hit start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or on a drone, and then you have to start over, and
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you're wasting more time.
yeah, exactly. But you don't get a choice; you just do it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Or
Right.
then you call people up and you're like, hey, sorry, do you want to come on again? And they're like, no.
So let me explain what happened.
Right. I actually took pictures of the tree on our power line because I thought they're never gonna believe me. This
Yeah.
story is ridiculous. Yeah.
You'll have to post that when we post the video.
Deal.
Be
I
like,
have it.
awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna put that in there because
Yeah.
we always include information. At the end of the show, we're gonna get your contact information.
Okay.
We'll put it all in there. We can edit that part out.
Yeah.
So the next kind of thing I wanted to, I guess, bring to the audience is what market do you work in? Are you just southeastern Wisconsin? Do you travel? What's your sweet spot, or where do you kind of focus in at?
So right now, living in Heartland, I do an hour drive from
Okay.
Heartland, and I changed it from mileage because mileage can get it can change depending on the direction you're going in traffic and that type of stuff. So I just say 1 hour. I can get there within 1 hour. If you Google it and it says 1 hour, I'll show up.
Yeah.
If it's longer than that, then I take the amount of time it takes extra, and I just charge a flat fee or per minute extra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to be, I think it's 76 cents a minute or something like that, and which is the average of what you would do per mile.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me to track time than it is for mileage.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
I always forget to start my mileage, and then
Yes.
I'll forget, and then I'll be like, oh, well, I don't know.
Right.
See, this is where we need to bring promos in, where
Yeah.
people can promote, because I use an app and it's just always on. So I start my car, I start driving, it clicks on,
Oh.
and then I stop driving and it shuts off, and then
That's
it just maps the thing, and I can merge trips if I had to stop at 2 different stores and then drop it off at a job site. I can just blend those all 3 and then
Okay.
hit business, and then it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to edit this, but I've been trying for about 2 years now to come up with a way, that same system, but something that plugs into your car where where they
Yes.
test it.
Yeah.
That
code
same
reader
exactly.
will-
So it knows your mileage automatically, but when you get in the car, you have to either push work or whatever, work or
Business or pleasure.
exactly. And it makes you press one of those, or beeps, or makes noise or something, so you can't forget to do it. But because, and then the GPS on it, so it knows where you started and ended. I think the biggest problem is you have to go back and go do what you're doing.
Oh, I hate it so much. That receipts, if I could get that off my table, I'd be a lot happier. But like, I'll go back in my phone after a week of driving, and it's like, you've got 200 trips to categorize.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, I'll get through this. Then you've got 100 receipts to categorize. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you could eliminate that by just pressing a button as you get in, because sometimes like I need to go to Menards or whatever. Editing all this out, I'm assuming. Whatever, big box store.
Use names.
Big box store.
Big box retailer.
And pick up something for work, but then I'm going to a friend's house afterwards. So what you should be able to do is go there and then just hit on this same panel, hit ×2. Because you really are going there and back is what you, and then go continue to your friend's house. But it already tracked your mileage ×2.
So is this going to be the next invention that you come up with?
I've actually have put a lot of time into trying to figure out how to do it and the best route to go with it. But I actually wanted the car. I wanted it to be like a breathalyzer where the car wouldn't even start until you hit, like.
I mean, for people that do it all the time,
right,
it would be efficient.
Right.
We just got to get around the auto start, because if you start taking away my auto start, I can't
me
do
too.
it from my controller.
Right.
I don't know if I can do it.
So I think just the beeping, the loud, annoying noise is enough
like
to make
the seatbelt
ding
that you get.
but louder and more annoying.
Right. I just don't drive.
Your baby crying.
So then,
there you go.
Oh my God, baby crying.
And then I think it would be cool to, because the one thing that I don't like about the service that I use, and if one of you from this company is listening, or if you can take this idea and invent it, but like log addresses that I go to all the time, because I have so many repeat trips that I have to keep going in, and like, I know this is a first world problem, so you should know that I go here and this is what it is.
Right.
So if you could just say like, I ended at this address, and the machine is like, this is big box retailer, boom, it'll categorize it and I'm done.
Right. And even if you have to put it in once, and then every time in the future it does it.
I get a list of all the places that I go, and if I'm close to that radius, like it just syncs up, and then it sends it to my files, and then it's done.
Yeah, that's huge. That would save some time.
Gotta do this.
Oh my goodness, you two both have the crazy eyes.
Yeah. This one has been on my plate for a while. That I've been.
I love it. That's awesome. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're always kind of thinking and like recategorizing and being like, what can I do better? How can I do it better? How can I do it better for me? How can I do it better for the whole world?
That's it. How do I make money when I'm sleeping?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That would be something. I need to figure that out too.
Do you have any, like, from when you started, I know you talked a lot about the products and how they've all evolved. When you started, what is the biggest leap and bound, like, new feature that has kind of elevated your product in?
Boy,
there could be multiple.
Yeah, the thing that it is still the number one that I think has huge potential. We're only seeing about 8 to 10% of the houses have virtual tours on it. Mm-hmm. I think that should be in the 90 percentile. As people have better phones in their hands, are more used to using tablets and computers, people don't want to travel to go see a house that the pictures were manipulated to the point that room is twice as big as what it really is. Yep. So I use a lens that is set up so it cannot go wider than what I think the eye can interpret a room size. Now there is some give and take to that depending on the person and stuff, but I'm not trying to make that room look like it's a 30 by 30 when it's really a 15 by 15. I don't think that doesn't help anybody out. No.
Right, because you're going to get some upset people walking through your house and you're like, this was so much bigger.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the virtual tours, I still think that's the game changer on the market. I think everybody should really be using those. And the one downside of them that I see is it does show everything. Yeah. Right. I can't hide anything. If you have an unfinished wall, we're going to see it. Yeah. But when they show up to that open house anyways, they're going to see it. Yeah. So unless that wall is going to be finished the next day when you start your open house, I don't think it's a huge issue. People know what they're getting into. And I eliminate the tire kickers, the neighbors that come over. Yep. And, sometimes those people are great. Sometimes you get to see a lot of them, or they market their house with you. Most of the time, that's not the case, though.
Yeah.
They just want to see what the house is, or they're bored and they want your cookies or whatever you have set out, and they're just there wasting some of your time.
Right.
Yeah.
Where these are people now, you've vetted them, they've seen the house, they know exactly what they're getting into. There's you're not hiding anything from them.
Yeah.
And so they walk in and they're actually potential buyers. So those are the people you want in the house.
Yeah. And I know that Wisconsin's cracking down on marketing in the fake photo. Basically,
yes.
like hard.
Good.
So to know that you're already on top of that and thinking ahead, like this was implemented before Wisconsin's really cracking down on what's going on. So to know that you have that in mind already.
Right. Yeah.
Again, another thing that the homeowner does not have to worry about.
Right. And I don't want to feel cheated, and I don't want to feel like I'm cheating anybody else. That's not my goal. Is I want to be transparent as possible with it.
Right.
So with the virtual tours, what I found, one of the neatest features, I got my nephew and nieces a Quest 2 virtual reality for Christmas. So they're getting older, and it's really hard to shop for one gift for each one of them. So I said, I'm just doing family gift from now on. Yeah. So we got them this.
I like that idea. That's a great idea.
It was great. And you can spend some more money so you can get a better gift overall for them, instead of buying a $50 piece, which doesn't go very far anymore.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Right. So after playing with this for a while, and we were playing some fun games, it's absolutely incredible. If you haven't played with one yet, definitely do it. But then I got into the Matterport app, and so they just bought a new house a year and a half ago. But when they were selling their old house, of course, I went through and did a Matterport for them.
Of course.
So, and I still have that Matterport virtual tour loaded up, so they could actually put on their virtual tour goggles and walk through their old house.
That's
cool.
cool.
And the nostalgia, now that the kid, they're just a year and a half older, but they're older and they forget some of just the nostalgia.
How cool is that could be when they're like graduating college,
right?
And they can go back in and like look through their old bedroom. And
right. This was my first. Oh yeah, you're
gonna get me all teary-eyed. That's not okay.
I feel a really good marketing piece coming out for you right now.
It was just so cool to do, because I didn't think of that when I bought this. I thought, hey, we're gonna play some table tennis together or whatever we were going to do, but it was, and then this popped up and I was like, let's go and let's look at your old house, and it was just like the nostalgia of them seeing it was great.
Man,
that's so sweet.
That would be a really cool gift idea that we have to talk offline.
Okay.
If we could get like into a significant other or your parents' old like childhood home and they could walk through it,
that would be really
holiday
neat.
gift right there.
Yeah,
hit you right in the feels on that one.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Oh my
And
god.
so I think that will be, and now that these virtual realities are becoming, are lowering the price, and the quality's gone up so much that you're not getting the motion sickness and stuff off of them, I think more people will have them in their house.
Yeah.
It was the number one selling Christmas present this year. You couldn't find them. You could not find them in the stores.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great feature.
That and PS5. I
right.
believe,
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
top two
Yes.
That were sold out.
And also if you can put them on and walk through a house, then so you actually really feel like you're in the house now. It's no longer you're looking at a computer screen with the house. You actually feel like you're in it and you're walking around it.
That's
pretty
crazy.
cool. Yeah.
And I don't know the company of it, but I was watching Shark Tank and they had a virtual reality, like their company was going to do it in a mall, and it's kind of like a half bowl treadmill, but it moves in every direction.
Right.
So like in the show, I think they were playing like Call of Duty or some first person military war game, and the person's walking and then they could like sidestep and the virtual reality would move them to the right and the whole bowl would kind of like in a treadmill motion wrap underneath itself. And then you could kneel down, it would sense the pressure, and then your Android would kneel down, and then you could run on it and your Android would run faster. It was super cool, so ungodly expensive for this equipment, but it was awesome to watch it do it, and like I think that would be cool to actually do it. But yeah, so like the technology has come such a long way.
It really has, yeah.
But I feel like it's an explode in like on the real estate side of things, you're saying only 10% on the high side of homes have virtual walkthroughs. Right. So if you had one thing to say for a homeowner to set yourself apart, get a virtual tour. Not a lot of people are doing it. It's a nice bonus, and it's not going to cost that much more to add that feature into your service than coming through and taking the standard photos.
Exactly. Not much more time. It takes only about 45 minutes more on a standard 2,500 square foot house. So not much more time, and you get a lot better feedback on real feedback of what your sellers will want.
So what you're saying is you could do my house in like 5 minutes.
Maybe a little bit more than that.
740 square foot.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
It'll probably take about 20 minutes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We're gonna have to test it.
Okay.
We'll bring the
The next
virtual
show,
reality over.
The next show will be doing it as you're doing your
Yeah.
walkthrough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could show that. Yeah,
That'd be
be
So-
we're gonna get on Zoom next
Yeah,
time.
we were
too.
just discussing this last week, and I felt really bad because we were getting a lot of feedback
Yeah.
from just the last guest about like, hey, it's the 21st
And
century.
the one before that.
Yeah, you should get on Zoom.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I know, we got to get on video. Something we're working to getting.
Yeah.
When we get on video, you could actually like show equipment or
Yeah,
actually do
show
a
how it
walk that I
works.
feel like would be
Yeah.
a cool little like show and tell for people that are interested in the service.
Right. Yeah.
But
I could definitely. I mean, I even could send you one that I've done. And if
Yeah.
you're loading in these,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
load it in so they get an
Awesome.
idea what it feels like.
yeah.
Of course, it won't be virtual reality, but at least they'll be able to look at what we're talking about.
And that's one thing that we're going to tag into the info at the end of the show is your website. Give us a video, any other pieces that our audience can take a look at, because obviously I want to get your brand out there.
for sure.
I
yeah.
trust it. I will use it for every listing that I have.
Thank you.
Just because I know I got feedback every time that I've seen it. So I'm definitely on board with it. 100% believe in it.
I do too. I wouldn't sell it if I didn't believe in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it makes it easy.
It does. Yeah.
But we're at our hour.
Hold
And-
on.
Oh, we have one more.
One
Oh,
more
that's right. I'm
question.
sorry.
Okay.
What has been your favorite DIY project, or what are you working on now?
Oh, that's easy. When COVID hit and everything shut down, I do a lot of rock climbing, indoor rock climbing. So I converted my attic into a rock climbing gym.
That's so cool.
So I have a 30-degree angle and a 50-degree angle wall with lots of holds on it, and then climbing ropes and different.
I was gonna ask about the ropes. I was like, wait, are we just like free climbing?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh no. Yeah. Free climbing. It's only about 12 feet tall, so it's
Okay.
it's
You have
called
mats down?
bouldering. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Whew.
Yep. Mats down, and yeah, so you fall and you land on the mats, and it's like a foam pit basically
Yeah.
in there.
That's
Um,
awesome.
And then monkey bars and stuff you would see on Ninja Warrior, and
Yeah.
That's so
so
cool.
that was my
Can we come over and play?
yeah for sure. Yeah. It's really cold in there right now.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it is.
I'm
Yes.
finishing the attic right now, and it is cold.
Yeah, so it's 0 degrees outside about, and it's probably 15 or 20 in there right now. Yeah, it's cold. Yeah.
That's an awesome project, though. My son would flip out over it. He's,
What I'm trying to do is get a rock wall down to the basement. So, like when you turn our mudroom, you go right, and then you head downstairs to the basement.
Yeah.
I want to create a rock wall, kind of coming down, so the kids can like grab on and climb down. And we've got this little like hiccup in the wall that bumps out, so you can use that as like your bouldering, kind of like moving
Right.
around an angle.
Yeah. Let me know, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. It's very simple to do.
Yeah.
Plywood and T-nuts.
Yeah.
It's very
It-
simple.
The first time I went bouldering, my forearms were like solid. Like I couldn't move my wrists because
Yeah.
it is
The
so
pump
much.
you get in your forearms.
I remember I went climbing out at Devil's Lake, and that was so much fun. I mean, I haven't
it's
been
amazing.
climbing for like 10 years, but I need to get back into doing something physical.
And that's one of the things that I've always talked about in the Olympics. Like you're doing the 100-meter sprint. You got your first 8 lanes of like professionally trained athletes. I think they should have a 9th lane and just have like Joe Schmo run with them
yes.
and see how the difference is.
Oh, God.
Because you watch somebody who's like experienced in rock climbing and you're like, yeah, he's climbing a rock. That's cool. And they're like, you go try it. And they get to like the first or second one and they're like, I don't know where to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like it's that complicated of a thing, but like the
It
muscle
is.
strength that you need and like the wherewithal of where your next move is going to be and keeping points on the wall. Way more goes into it.
Yeah. I call it much of a, I think it's called a second degree fun. I think that's our second level fun, where
Yeah.
it's not so much fun when you're on the wall, but when you get home, the memory and the enjoyment of doing it is a lot of fun.
Right.
So it's that second level of having fun. It's not laughing and enjoying your life when you're on the wall, even
Yeah.
though I do, but a lot of people don't
Yeah.
enjoy that burn and the pain that comes with it. But I think that's part of the fun of doing it
Yeah.
Sure.
for myself. But it's definitely more when you get home, you're like, I accomplished that.
Yeah.
You know, like climbing Everest, even though that's a different type of rock climbing. You know, it's not very much fun when you're freezing up there.
Yeah.
But when
Right.
you get home, you're like, I climbed Everest.
Yeah.
Where's
Oh,
the coolest place you've climbed?
So I've been out west a couple times climbing. One thing there is called deep water, DWS, deep water, or DWC, deep water climbing, and you climb above a river or some sort of water that when you fall back into the water.
Okay.
And even though
That's cool.
you know we don't have a lot of mountains or high cliffs around here, these cliffs were like 62 feet, 70 feet was the highest that I was able to climb. And that was in Arizona down the Colorado River. So on the side of the river, you're climbing, you just pull up your boat there or your raft, and you have two people with you normally. And, you know, you get out and you change your shoes and you start to climb. And then they pull the raft away. So now your fall is right into the water. And how you get down is into the water.
That would be
Really?
kind of
Yeah,
scary.
yeah. So, I mean, you can try to climb back down, but back climbing is way harder than up climbing.
Oh, yeah.
And so climbing down, so you cliff dive.
Oh
so
my
now
God.
you're jumping 70 feet into,
Yikes.
Oh, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
the best experience ever.
I don't know if I could get up, but I would cliff jump.
I've like jumped off of cliffs in Hawaii.
Yeah,
That's what I did.
that's
The same one that Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when they went cliff jumping. That's where we went.
I don't know. Was that Froggy?
Oh.
No,
I have
that's
no
in
idea what. I just.
Jamaica.
I mean, mine weren't like ginormous, but it was high enough.
It's the same fear no matter you're at 20 feet.
Yeah.
If you have a
It is.
fear, it's the same. And the up to about 70 feet, the feel of the fall is about identical. I mean, you're in the air for longer,
Yeah.
but the when you enter the water, the feeling of entering the water is about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then higher than that is when like Red Bull cliff divers. That's when they
Oh boy.
you're not allowed to go in head first water because they start getting into where you can injure yourself by velocity
Yeah.
into water. Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, that is an awesome hobby to have.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yes. If you guys ever want to climb, let me know.
I do. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I can jump right from like the small bouldering that I did into like going up to La Crosse and covering the bluffs.
Right.
I don't know if I can make that leap quite yet.
I wouldn't expect you to. Yeah.
Build up some forearm strength before I'm tied to a string.
We'll have to
basically.
do this as like a company outing, Marcus.
All right. I like that idea.
Team building.
Yeah. Yes.
Led by Brad.
Yes.
Yeah. I can show you where the wall is and how to climb it, but you have to
rest
get
is up
it.
to
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
man.
exactly. You have to have the motivation, the
Yeah.
pain tolerance to do
Yeah.
it. Because you come down, your fingers feel like they're sprained. You can't. So I have I used to have a motorcycle. Last summer I sold it, but I learned that I couldn't take the motorcycle to the gym anymore because I couldn't pull the brake and the clutch after I got
Oh, yeah.
done climbing because my hands were so sore.
Yeah.
So I would have to sit there for like an hour before I could. So I learned I can't do that anymore.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is
Noted.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, our audience got something out of kind of the background mechanics of why photography is important, why good photography is important. And if you find something of value, we're going to leave all of Virtual 360's information with some marketing pieces that he's done in the past in the show notes. But otherwise, can you just recap what's the best way for our audience to get a hold of you if they need your services?
Yeah. So the best way is definitely text to start. Like many people, I filter my phone calls and don't answer the ones I don't know. So phone number 262-707-2822. Shoot me a text. Otherwise, to see my product, www.v360u.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and we'll have that all printed so you don't have to like rewind this to listen to all the
Yep.
information.
Okay.
Just click on
Yep.
show more,
Yep.
and you'll see all that information on the bottom. But otherwise, if you want to reach out to us because you missed the information, we'll get you in contact any way possible. We'll make sure you get in contact with them and get the photography needs met. But otherwise, we hit an hour.
Seem quick.
I know
Yeah.
it always goes so
Yeah.
quick, which is why I get
Yes.
yelled at when I go over an hour
I know.
by Natasha.
I've been nice to
We got
them.
about
She
20
has
minutes of editing
The
in there.
first time it happened, She was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then she's like 1 minute. And she's like, we're over the time. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to stop.
He was
So I'm
like
very cognizant now.
25 minutes over the time
Okay.
one time. And
All
I was
right.
like, oh my God, Marcus.
We were on a roll. It was a good show. The
It's
audience
easy to
was
do.
loving it.
You were loving it.
I was loving it.
Yeah.
But no, we appreciate you. We'll definitely have you guys on again when I want to do it when like the market is
Good.
busy, which is gonna stink for you because I know that it gets so busy. But hopefully you can kind of go into like we're in the thick of it. This is kind of what our process is because you're kind of in the sync of it. We
Right.
kind of get that aspect of it.
Sure.
I think that would be great for the audience to hear how it all works.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome.